Welcome back to the Equilibrium Report, where we examine political contradictions that get glossed over because they are uncomfortable, inconvenient, or flat out embarrassing. Today, we're tackling one of the biggest ideological knots inside the modern right-wing movement. How the Maga base increasingly embraces anti-Semitic rhetoric, while Maga leadership is historically one of the most aggressively pro-Israel coalitions in U.S. history. It's a contradiction so big, so obvious, that the movement has to pretend not to see it. But we see it, and today we're laying it out with specifics. Let's start with the political reality. The Trump administration was one of the most pro-Israel administrations since the founding of the state itself. This isn't opinion, it's a long list of public, documented actions. Donald Trump. Unprecedented pro-Israel decisions. He moved the U.S. Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, something multiple presidents promised and avoided. He recognized the Golan Heights as sovereign Israeli territory. He cut hundreds of millions in Palestinian aid, shifting leverage entirely toward Israel. He greenlit massive weapon sales, including precision-guided missile packages. He approved the Abraham Accords, which reshaped Middle East diplomacy. These were not symbolic gestures. They dramatically altered U.S. foreign policy. Top Trump-aligned officials with strong Israeli political ties. First on the list, Jared Kushner. He was the architect of the Abraham Accords. He has long-standing business relationships connected to Israeli firms. He's involved in regional security talks that align strongly with Israeli strategic objectives. David Friedman, former U.S. ambassador to Israel. He's a longtime supporter of Israeli settlement expansion. He publicly advocated for annexation of the West Bank. He helped craft diplomatic frameworks directly in line with Netanyahu administration's agenda. Mike Pompeo, Secretary of State. He was the first U.S. official to visit a settlement in the West Bank. He stated publicly that the U.S. considers Israeli settlements not inconsistent with international law. He's a vocal supporter of full integration between U.S. and Israeli security intelligence. The list continues. Ron DeSantis. He signed multiple anti-BDS laws in Florida. He held a Florida cabinet meeting inside Israel, an unprecedented move for a U.S. state government. He built political capital heavily on Israel First messaging. Nikki Haley. As UN ambassador, she blocked nearly every resolution critical of Israel, often aggressively. She publicly aligned with Israeli leadership, more consistently than virtually any modern UN envoy. Steve Mnuchin, Mike Pence, Rick Grenell, Tom Cotton, and Lindsey Graham all publicly tied themselves to pro-Israel political action groups, military cooperation programs, or diplomatic missions. This is not a vague alignment. It is a heavily documented pattern. The Maga political leadership is firmly, vocally, aggressively pro-Israel. Yet, the Maga base is going in the opposite direction. And that's the contradiction we're digging into. The Maga's base has increased its anti-Semitic rhetoric. While the political leadership hugs Israel tighter every year, the grassroots Maga ecosystem, influencers, podcasters, or I like to call them propagandcasters, streamers, and social media accounts, has embraced a level of anti-Semitic rhetoric not seen in mainstream politics for decades. Nick Fuentes called Jews evil people. He praised Hitler, denies the Holocaust, attended a dinner at Mar-a-Lago with Trump, leads the Groyper movement, which openly pushes anti-Semitic narratives. Kanye West told multiple hosts he loves Hitler, explicitly blamed Jewish people for all bad things. Trump continued interacting with and defending him long after these comments began. Far-right influencers with substantial Maga overlap also promoted Zionist-occupied government theories, claimed Israel controls the United States, spread classic anti-Semitic conspiracy tropes about finance and media. These claims circulate on X, Telegram, Rumble, and Truth Social, and are often amplified by Maga-aligned audiences. And I understand where this narrative comes from. However, that doesn't necessarily make any of these people truthful, or accurate. Other figures like Laura Loomer, Michelle Malkin, and America First content creators, while not always openly anti-Semitic, frequently platform or support people who are, helping normalize the rhetoric. Large anonymous accounts also contribute. The point is, the Maga base isn't merely flirting with anti-Semitism, it's bathing in it. And this is happening while the leadership is more pro-Israel than any modern political faction. This is not a pro or anti-Israel segment. However, its sole purpose is to illustrate the contradiction of the MAGA movement, its anti-Jewish rhetoric, simultaneously coupled with its pro-Israel action. This contradiction isn't random. It comes from how the movement is structured. MAGA's leadership is political and strategic. They support Israel because it energizes evangelical voters. It aligns with long-standing GOP foreign policy doctrine. It strengthens ties with powerful donors and geopolitical allies. It positions the U.S. strategically in the Middle East. For them, Israel is a useful partner. The MAGA base is emotional, conspiratorial, and grievance-driven. The base is motivated by online echo chambers, conspiracy culture, identity politics, anti-elite sentiment, and distrust of institutions. However, I would say that the conspiracy culture has been hijacked, obviously, by false, just the blatant saturation of ridiculous conspiracies online. Anti-elite sentiment is fine and dandy. There's nothing wrong with that. However, they don't seem to be that way. This is another contradiction. It could be another segment in itself, but we'll relate it to this as well. They act like they're anti-elite, but yet worship and simp for the very elites. So yeah, let's see. The far-right's anti-Semitic lineage never went away. Its roots stretch from the 1940s America First Committee, Cold War Zionist world government conspiracies, KKK rhetoric, neo-Nazi militia movements, the John Birch Society, 1990s far-right radio networks, early 2000s white nationalist forums. MAGA didn't invent anti-Semitism, it just digitized it. The two factions don't actually agree on anything except loyalty to Trump. Trump is the glue, not ideology, not coherent policy. That's why contradictions don't break the movement, they're built into it. So when you see MAGA supporters cursing Jews online while waving Israeli flags at rallies, when you see podcasters rant about Zionist control while cheering Trump's embassy move, when you see influencers attacking Jewish people while defending politicians who court pro-Israel billionaires, understand this. It's not ideology. It's not philosophy. It's not coherent political identity. It's a collision between a leadership class loyal to Israel for political and strategic reasons, and a base marinating in conspiracies older than the internet. That contradiction isn't an accident. It's a symptom of a movement held together by emotion instead of principle, by grievance instead of logic, and by loyalty instead of truth. This is the Equilibrium Report, where we don't take sides. We examine the imbalance no one else wants to admit exists. Thank you for watching.
You are watching the Equilibrium Report. Stay free, stay true, stay defiant.